raid happening right here at the ABC right now, just 100 metres or so that way.
On the 5th of June 2019, the Australian Federal Police raided the ABC headquarters. The day before, they raided the home of News Corp journalist Anneka Smethurst. In a country that calls itself a thriving democracy, how are journalists and their sources being targeted? And why is the law not protecting them?
Our journalists do a really difficult job. They do it in the public's interest, and journalism is not a crime.
This is how 20 years of lawmaking, fixated on counter-terror measures, has instead captured journalists and whistleblowers in its web.
We may not be living in a police state, but we are living in a state of secrecy.
CNN is reporting tonight that a plane has crashed into the World Trade Center.
On September 11, 2001, 4 coordinated terror attacks shook the United States and sent a ripple of fear across the world. Here in Australia, in the wake of those attacks, the government shifted gears.
I saw this as an attack on our common values.
In the 2 decades since, we went from having 0 counter-terror laws to 92, 5,000 pages of laws. These laws contain unprecedented powers and were overwhelmingly enacted in haste, some of them in just a few hours, playing on urgency and fear.
Is it offensive as well to Labor to say that they'd be backing terrorist communication?
Well, I tell you what's offensive. It's running a protection racket for terrorist net.
They include preventative detention orders, citizen stripping, compulsory questioning on children as young as 14. They upend democratic rights like freedom of movement, the freedom from arbitrary detention, the right to a fair trial, and the presumption of innocence. Instead of a criminal justice system focused on past behaviours, these laws instead seem to tip over into punishing people for what they might do or say in future. And if you think that sounds a little bit broad, sweeping, and frightening, you'd be right. Today, Australia has the most extensive and complex set of counter-terror laws anywhere in the Western world. They're sold to us as a way of protecting us, but what if there's something else they're protecting?
They are normally rivals, but on Monday, all major news organisations in Australia joined forces.
Commissioner, have you seen the front page of the Australian today?
I haven't.
Have you seen the front page of the Sydney Morning Herald?
I have now.
In the months after the AFP raids, every daily newspaper in the country redacted their front page. Our media was united in a shared campaign. When governments keep the truth from you, what are they covering up?
If government operates on the basis of a culture which is keep things secret because we don't want it being discussed, then I think we, as people, would lose out.
Secrecy offences make it a crime to even mention that some powers have been used. Metadata and decryption powers mean that journalists can't even guarantee that their sources won't be identified. And the definition of national security in the espionage laws extends to anything about Australia's political, military, or economic relations with other countries. The effect of this on our press is chilling. Here's how the ABC's editorial policy director put it. We've killed off stories because of these laws, and we're not talking about trivial stories, we're talking about important stories. The threat of prosecution hanging over journalists and whistleblowers reflects a growing culture of secrecy right across government. When ABC journalist Andrew Probyn asked for information on waiting times for disability support, he was sent these almost completely redacted documents. In 2019 to 20, the Prime Minister's office only met a response deadline for 7.5% of Freedom of Information requests. And in the same year, across all departments, their refusal of FOI requests was up 71%. And all of this, it's not just felt nationally. Australia has dropped 5 places on the Global Press Freedom Index in just the last 3 years.
In the United States, if you contact a public official, they have an obligation in their constitution to be as open as they possibly can. In this country, public officials seems to have the reverse obligation.
This is a government that does not like scrutiny, and the laws they're enacting are making it increasingly difficult for those who seek to scrutinise. While the AFP raids made global headlines, there was another controversy brewing. Bernard Collaery, the lawyer for the intelligence whistleblower known as Witness K, sought legal proceedings against the Australian government for the fraud it committed against Timor-Leste.
The Howard government then had the Australian Secret Intelligence Service install listening devices in East Timor's ministerial offices to eavesdrop on East Timor's deliberations, and the operation was illegal, unscrupulous, and remains unresolved.
Kaleri and Witness K were charged as criminals for exposing what the Australian government had done.
It was an extraordinary hearing conducted in a courtroom with cameras covered and glass doors blacked out.
It becomes much more secretive than a terrorist trial or something of that nature. This could be, in a strange way, one of the most secretive trials in Australian history.
This secrecy is enabled by a law designed to prosecute terrorism offences. These kinds of laws that impinge on individuals' rights are typical of wartime powers. During world wars, powers were enacted that did just that. But those laws were written with endpoints. Section 2 of the War Proportions Act 1914 stated, "This Act shall continue in operation during the continuance of present state of war and no longer." Unlike war, we're told that the threat of terror has no end date. Laws to counter terror are being adapted to respond to threats like foreign interference, espionage, and right-wing extremism. And that means that these laws are in effect permanent. 92 laws repeatedly renewed or written without an end date, each one chipping away at our freedom to speak, report, and hold power to account. Today, our status as a leading democracy is fragile.
He just comes at me and pointed at my face.
They just started spraying everyone. There was so much media there, and I reckon so many people from the media just got sprayed. We were just covering what was happening, and they just started spraying everyone.
Today you're actually working for mainstream media?
Yeah, for The Age.
And
it makes no difference with the police, my friend. They just looked at me, aimed at me, and they just went for it. I worked all over. I worked in Latin America, Asia, you name it. You know what? I've been in Latin America, in Chile, when there's riot police, when they see the full riot police coming towards you, you just lift your camera, show your media card, and they don't even touch you. Here, move, you know, you felt it.
Get it? So he's just literally targeted the media. Why are they arresting journalists? So there you have a journalist in Melbourne, Australia, being arrested for doing his job.
There's a difference between being ricocheted, where you have the peripherals of getting targeted, you know, like the police are going for someone and you get this side of, I get that, it happens, you know, but when you feel like you've been precisely targeted, knowing that you are a working person, there's a different scenario.
It was on purpose. I don't know. I mean, look, press. It was on purpose.
There is no difference between how we get treated in the protests as the protesters. Having said that, I don't think protesters should be treated badly anyway. You know what I'm saying? But at least, you know, you're working and all of that. Why do it on purpose?
It's no accident. Look at him, clearly press, marked as press. He's got cameras on him.
Told my bosses what actually happened. It was done on purpose. But, you know...
Did they ask you if you're all right?
Of course. No. My editors are really good. My picture editor is perfect. And but, you know, but it's above and beyond them, you see. So in other words, it's a matter of the big bosses getting together.
Do you think that The Age is going to stand up for you here?
I have no idea.
I just can't make sense of it, where in a Western democracy, the media is not only not safe, they seem to have been targeted in that situation.
Yeah, I can't speak for exactly what the police were doing there and what was happening, but definitely you can see my face and you can see what happened. And
somehow Victoria Police keeps confusing press with protesters. I don't know which government in the world gets away with doing that. Those governments that don't like the press showing what's happening on the front lines. You know, China, North Korea. But this is Melbourne, Australia.
I didn't get angry at the fact that I got sprayed. I got angry that it was done on purpose. There's a difference in that, you know. For Australia to behave, allow the police to behave this way, to me, it's certainly not very, you know, democratic as we think it should be.
You're right, bro. They got no respect. Even, you know, in Hong Kong, I did this at the front line and I never copped that.
Far out, man. They pushed some old lady over.
Yeah, they smashed her. Not even media is safe in Melbourne, Australia in 2021 because apparently it's for our health. I do hope that your bosses do stand up for you and they actually...
I just hope that not for me. I just hope for all of us. They would get together and then, you know what? Not like even this morning when they were doing the police check, the first thing I said to the police person, what you guys should have done, once you check the media, you should give us a sticker or something to show that we've been checked. Because we've been checked.
Maybe a yellow star.
But you know what I mean?
They do the same thing for the bike clubs.